Khayelihle Khumalo joins us for more on the elections this afternoon. Good afternoon, Khayelihle. So let's start with South Africa. You've been monitoring the voting in the country. How has that been proceeding?
Well, by all means, Mfundo, it's really just gone very well here in South Africa. As you know that, areas like Johannesburg, it's an economic hub in Southern Africa. So inevitably you have quite a sizable number of Mozambicans who are based here. So at the consulate, you really had a massive number of people who came to vote. And it was quite interesting. A lot of them, they were talking about issues around economic growth in Mozambique. Others were saying, well, look, we're here in South Africa, but we'd love to go back home. But the issue of the economy is the most foremost issue for them. But obviously you do have areas like Mpumalanga as well, very close to Mozambique, areas as well like Limpopo and also the northwest, given the fact that also with the mining areas there, you have quite a number of Mozambicans who are based in South Africa. So it's one really relatively smooth.
But you've also been keeping a close watch on voting in Mozambique itself. Did voting stations open in time? Did they have enough ballot papers? Talk us through that.
Well, obviously, there were some certain challenges. You look at the central part of Mozambique, like Zambezia, with the delay of the voting material. But, eventually they were able to open at some point. But it was also quite interesting, Mfundo, listening to the outgoing president, Filipe Nyusi, calling for calm, saying that it's absolutely important for Mozambique to set a very good example as a democratic state, but also appealing also to the observer missions. As you know, that SADC, they do have the former Angolan president who's on the ground. AU as well, they do have the head of the observer mission, Commonwealth, and many others as well.
And what is the sentiment around the two front runners that we keep reading about, specifically Frelimo's Daniel Chapo and then Renamo's Osufo Momade? What is the sentiment on the ground?
A fairly interesting choice for Frelimo, because with Mr. Chapo coming into the equation, they are appealing to the young crowd. As you know, that a myriad of challenges in Mozambique, the young people, it's a relatively young country. So the young people really, they want somebody who's going to resonate with the young voters. And through Chapo, they really wanted somebody who will do that. He's 47 years old. He's, quite well established. He's a lawyer. He's a former journalist, but also a former governor of the southern province of Inhambane. So this is someone who's very young, but also born after
independence.
Very much so.
Very courageous of them, because one would think that they would have thought to field a candidate that would have been there during the years of struggle.
Especially because, when you look at these former liberation movements in Southern Africa, they're really battling with the issue of the generational mix, where they need to make sure that the young leaders are coming into the fore. But when you look at Renamo, for example, they do have a man who has been around. He fought in a civil war. But also, you go back to 2019 elections, he was one of the candidates. And he had to go to court because he had dissatisfaction, but also the very key message that he had for the electoral body in Mozambique was to ensure that the elections are run smoothly in terms of transparency as well, appealing that the true will of Mozambicans should be reflected.
There's also an independent candidate this time around, Venisho Mondlane. I don't know if he's in any way related to founder Eduardo Mondlane in any way.
A very interesting candidate, Mfundo, especially because he used to be part of Renamo, a very charismatic man. During the course of the rallies and campaign trail, he really appealed to the young Mozambicans. But it's always hard for the independent candidates because you need to have the constituency, you need to have a firm base. So it's been a very interesting time in Mozambique.
And then beyond this, is there anything for South Africa to learn? Because we know they've sent a strong delegation to observe the elections or voting today. Is there anything from just your interactions with the African National Congress and other liberation organizations that have gone to observe the elections? Is there anything to learn from Frelimo?
I think there's definitely something to learn. Judging by the remarks that were made by the ANC's head of the International Relations Subcommittee, Nomvula Mkonyane, saying by virtue of going to Maputo, one of the key lessons really is to observe and really draw some lessons how Frelimo has been able to maintain its grip into power, especially, I mean, they've been in power since 1975. They survived a terrible war that's claimed over 1 million lives of Mozambicans. So, but also it's been really interesting, quite a number of messages coming from a number of parties as well, the friendly parties to Mozambique, but also the outgoing president, Nyusi. One of the biggest issues, obviously, it's Cabo Delgado with the insurgency, where SADC region, they had to formulate and really send a mission to try and stabilize and repel the terror attacks. So it's going to be a massive issue, because when you look at the economy of Mozambique, one of the major issues is around gas, energy. But with all these instabilities, it is a very big issue that the new president will have to focus on, so that they can unleash Mozambique's enormous economic potential.
Quite interesting what we've been monitoring there, but most certainly will be interesting to see what becomes the outcome, if Frelimo will again be the ones that present a president to the citizens of Mozambique. Thank you very much, Khayelihle, for joining us this afternoon.